Hey, I'm Mike Grimm. I'm going to take you through my lower body foam rolling and stretch series today. This is a series I like to do when I'm feeling any kind of like a twinge in my knee or my back in my workouts. Nothing that's debilitating, nothing sharp or shooting, just something that was like a little twinge and was off and was causing me to have to pull out of certain exercises and not complete sets, or I just wasn't operating the way I wanted to. I like to do this series to check in, make sure I can break up any knots and really try to loosen up any tension that might have been holding that joint back a little bit. It's also a great series to do if you haven't stretched in a while and you just are feeling super tight, or whatever activities you're doing, just tension's just really locking you up in either your back or your hips or your lower body somewhere. Do this whole series. You can try to discover where some of that tension might be, and then you know what to focus on in any dedicated stretch sessions in the future. For this series, you're going to need a foam roller and you're going to need a stretch strap. I'm going to also show some variations on the hamstring stretch where you won't need the strap. So if you don't have one, don't worry, toss that aside for now. Now feel free to take this at your own pace. You can pause, fast forward, rewind parts to focus on areas that you really might need more attention on, or you can just ride out the whole experience with me. So let's get started. Now, I like to start out rolling my calves, because we won't really be revisiting this part of the body anytime soon after this. And we can start just sitting straight up here. You're going to have your calves resting on top of the foam roller here. You can stack your legs to increase the intensity of the digging on one calf, but I like to do that a little bit later. Let's start off just with both calves laying on top of the foam roller. We're going to just shift forward and backward. We want to get the whole length in there, and you can get different angles. I can turn my feet outward and get the outsides of the calves. I can turn my feet inward and get the insides of the calves. But take your time. You're just getting started here. You're just going to kind of get things slowly warmed up. I can already feel a little spot that's a little tender in there. Now, what you want to do is, if you feel a spot that's got a pretty strong knot on it, then you really want to try to sit there for like 30 seconds. So if you find a spot that, it's like a big lump I'm rolling over right there, and it hurts to kind of dig into it, try to just sit on that for 30 seconds and just wait. Give it time. All right? Now, if that's not enough pressure on it, of having the calf lay there on its own, now would be a good time to then stack your calf and then just wait. Give it that time, sitting, sinking onto that knot, just trying to relax your feet. It's important that whatever muscle you're rolling out, the muscle is relaxed. So with our calves here, my foot's just kind of flopped forward here. I'm not pressing my toes forward, but nor am I pulling my toes up like that, okay? What's up, buddy? We're just keeping your foot relaxed so that it can really dig into the muscle a little bit more and try to dig into that knot. Okay, and then after you kind of sat on that knot, you can kind of go back to rolling forward and backward here, all the way through. And then I can get the other calf as well. I think I found a little spot somewhere right around here. Maybe not so much, maybe right around there. Oof. Ooh, and it might not feel good. It might not feel great. Now, if it's sharp shooting, 10 out of 10 pain of some sort, back out of that. You're not trying to send yourself to the hospital here. You're just, you should be able to tolerate sitting on it, okay? It might not be comfortable, okay, but you should be able to tolerate sitting on it, and it might feel pretty intense. If it's too intense, unstack your leg, or even if you don't even have your foot stacked, you need to ease the pressure. You can take the bottom foot, or you can take your opposite foot, put it underneath the other and sort of lift it up a little bit and kind of ease the pressure off. You won't need much. It'll just be like a little lift there. Okay, that's if it's really too much, but you want to try to be brave and just breathe through those moments and see if that tension can release. If it's not releasing, then ease off, come back. But a good 30 seconds in that spot. Okay. Right. Now, if you're like me and you wore zippered pants, it's not always the most fun to roll over those spots. So keep in mind, sometimes when you might be rolling over as a part of like a button or something in your pants, just make sure you don't have like one of those moments happening. But all right, from there, I like to now flip over and let's move on to your quads, okay? So you want to go from the tops of your knees, okay, not actually on your knee, but just above the knee, all the way up to your hips here. You can get way up in there. Now, fellas, as you do this, you might have to lift up a little bit to just avoid any unnecessary pain there. You don't want to roll over anything that's, not going to make your day great. There we go. But then same thing here. We can change different angles. We can tilt left and right. Try to get different parts of the quad there. And again, if you find any moments that are just like really, it's a big knot, hurts to roll over that spot, then try to be brave. Go to that spot and sit on it and hold it. Give it a good 30 seconds, okay? There we go. If you do this often enough, you won't have as many of those knot moments. Or you might even find yourself using something even stiffer than a high-density foam roller. You might be using something that's got, you could be using like a PVC pipe if you really are brave. Those will really dig in. If you use those knobby foam rollers, not the ones that have like a flat knob, I don't find those digging much more than what this would. But the foam rollers that have like pointy knobs, really, big fat pointy ones, those things will dig in. They'll hit those spots real good. You got to kind of be a little more advanced at using these foam rollers before you get to those. All right, so now you can see I'm going to start moving up. I'm going to get my hip flexor a little bit up here. So I'm going to get just the top of my hip up here. This can be kind of tight on me. At this point, I'm going to start to pick a side, all right? So I'm going to choose my right side to begin on. So I'm coming all the way up top of the hip, letting that dig in up there at the top of the quad, right at the hip crevice. And then I'm going to roll onto my right side, onto this soft tissue on here, right at the top of my hip. And I'm going to eventually make my way back to my glute there. But for now, for me, even just right up here, this little pocket of soft tissue up here can sometimes be pretty tight. Spend some time there. If you got something rolling, if you just roll back and forth, you might find some surprising tension somewhere in there. And if you do, for me, right there, if I'm sort of at this angle, sort of diagonally, find this little spot right at the top of my quad. And I'm just going to breathe and wait, let that roller dig in. It's not comfortable here right now, but I'm going to take it. I'm going to let it happen. Because now the longer I'm here, it's already starting to release a little bit. It doesn't hurt as bad, essentially. Now when I roll back and forth, it's not quite as bad. All right, good. And from here, now what we'll do is we'll move on. Just while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and get this right glute. So I'm going to go up and down that glute there. Now the other day I did a workout that kind of hit my lower body pretty strong. So this glute is sore. And this is good for it. I want to roll around in there. I want to work that. I want to work any tension that built in there from that. Work any knots that tried to get in there. That's it. And then another way you can get your glutes. So all I'm doing is I'm just kind of tilted over a little bit, focusing on that glute, back and forth. But you can also take your right leg and put it on top of your right knee. Now I'm going to hit that right glute. I'm going to open that up a little bit. I'm going to get it just at a different angle now. Okay? Kind of rolling around here. Now notice, because I want whatever muscle that I'm rolling to be relaxed, I'm using all of my other limbs to take the work and do the workload. This right leg is relaxed. This right leg is just loose and hanging out here. My left leg and my arms are what's rolling me around here. So I go back and forth here, okay? Now you want to watch out for any bony protrusions. Your glute has got pretty much nothing but soft tissue surrounding all around out there. But when we get to the next position here, when we get to the side of the leg, we have a couple bony protrusions that we're going to watch out for. All right. So from there, I'll bring that back down. And just to review again, with this leg straight, I'm getting my right glute here. So the glute itself is relaxed, which means to help that, I've got my whole right leg is just relaxed. It's just kind of flopped there. And my left leg and my arms are doing the work to push this around. I'm not pulling with my right leg. I'm actually letting the left leg do all the work as the right leg is just along for the ride. But from here, let's take this over to our side. And I want to get this IT band that runs down the outside of the leg here, okay? And the IT band connects this muscle tissue called the TFL. Now, what I'll do is from up here up top, that little pocket of tissue I was talking about up here, is a pocket kind of between two bony protrusions here. So what you have, and you can stay on your foam roller, I'm going to show you. As you come up the side of your leg, eventually a piece of your femur, well, like a knob of your femur sticks out a little bit. You don't want to roll over that repeatedly, okay? You're not going to injure it right away just by rolling over it. Ideally not. If you do, seek some medical attention. But otherwise, you should be fine. But you just don't want to do it repeatedly, as you don't want to aggravate the tissue over top of that, okay? So we try to avoid that bony protrusion. And then we have another one, our hip bone up here, okay? This is a piece of the iliac crest up here, okay? So between those two, we've got a pocket of tissue we can roll through, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'll roll that, and then I'm gonna kind of tilt my body to go around that femur that sticks out here, and then get the rest of the soft tissue all down and around here. So you could already possibly be exploring that yourself, but I'm gonna start here. So I'm gonna get that pocket of tissue up there, and that was kind of part of what we were sitting on earlier. I'm going to go around that knob, and now I'm just going to focus on the IT band. There we go. So I'm just going to go up and down. Now with the IT band, you will see a lot of people at the gym, this leg is locked straight. They might even stack both legs. I'm like, yes, look at me getting both legs. And it's not terrible, but I find it to be far more effective when that bottom leg is relaxed. So I take your top leg, step it in front of you. Both hands are on the ground, and your bottom leg is just relaxed down there. It should actually even be dragging along the floor. It's so relaxed. And if you have it dragging along the floor, you might find the foam roller will dig in a little bit more. Now, I'm only going up to where my femur sticks out here. That bony protrusion here, I'm not going to cross that. I'm just going up and down from that point and away from that point to just above the knee. Between that bony protrusion and the knee. I'm not rolling on the knee. Again, we don't want any bony protrusions. We're going between those two, just above the knee to just below that femur. Good. Back and forth. All right. And then from here, I'll just kind of continue back to behind my leg onto my hamstrings. Now your hamstrings, it's kind of tough to get them to really dig in with the foam roller, but I like to do it, get that little wave in my mat. But I still like to check in with it. So from here, you're just rolling back and forth on the hamstring, just kind of letting it sink in there. And even if you're not digging into any knots, this rolling is just helping to warm up the muscle tissue for when we go to do the stretching afterwards. Good. All right, from that though, now I'm going to move on. I'm still here. What I like to do is I still like to stay on my back, and I'll just go now to the other hamstring and I kind of work myself backwards on the other side. So I'm going to actually flip my body around on camera, but you don't have to. You can stay facing the same way you are. But this way you can just see that I have switched sides, and you'll see me working that side a little bit better. So I'm working my left hamstring now, back and forth. Notice again, the left leg is relaxed, dragging around. The only reason the foot might be up at moments is so that the grip of my shoe doesn't keep catching the mat as much. But my hamstring itself is totally relaxed while my other limbs do the work. From there, I'm going to move on to the left IT band. So the outside of my left leg, going from just above the knee all the way up to that femur, back and forth. I'm going to kind of get away from there, give myself a little more room to work with here. Back and forth. And again, if you find some spots, a lot of times rolling out the IT band can really wake up a lot of knots and tension that people didn't realize they were carrying. You might be here like, this might be crazy painful. Do your best to try and sit on those spots using your other limbs to weight bear. You can ease the tension off using your other limbs by kind of pressing and lifting up a little bit. But just do your best to breathe through it, relax that particular muscle, letting that roller just dig in. If you have to break, get off and take breaks. Get off and take breaks and come back to it. That's why, look, this whole session is just dedicated to this series. Just breaking up this tension here. Good. Then we're going to come all the way to now I'm going to go around that femur, that spot, and I'm going to get that little pocket of soft tissue between the femur and the iliac crest there. And I'm going to kind of roll back and forth to get that a little bit. That's it. You might need to make some adjustments if your waistband, some part of the fabric of your clothes gets in the way or creates a little bump. And I'm going to turn that, for me personally, I'm not going to roll back onto my glute here. So now I'm on my left glute rolling back and forth here. There we go. Kind of getting way up here. That's it. You can kind of just even go up into your lower back there a little bit. I'm going to now take my left foot, put the left ankle on top of my right knee, and I'm still going to focus on that glute region still. But what was getting away from me? That's it. I'm just going to hit that glute in a different way. Again, just kind of keep changing spots. I'm hitting different angles, but you might be finding some knots. If you find those knots, sit on them. 30 seconds, count down slowly. You can use that 30-second countdown as sort of a meditative release as well. I like to count down from 30 as opposed to counting up, or count down from 30 as opposed to up to it. Because counting down, I feel like gives you that sort of mental state of relaxation as you come and get grounded into 3, 2, 1 at the very bottom. It just sort of ends up being that release. That's what I like to prefer, but find your style. You might find counting up to 30 to be far more relaxing. If that's your thing, go for it. Fully support whatever's going to help you release tension here. All right, from there, I'm going to let that go. We're going to go straight. I'm now going to find that little pocket of tissue between the femur and the iliac crest here on the side here again. Now I'm going to roll back and forth, and I'm going to start to get into my quad. But this time for me personally, I've got that little pocket of tension right at that sort of diagonal corner there. Same thing on this side. So I'm going to sit here. I'm going to give myself a good 30 seconds on this one spot. I'm just going to breathe. Relax the tension. Let it sit and rest. The longer I sit here, sometimes it doesn't feel like it's doing anything until it gets somewhere between the 20 and 30 seconds. It might even take a little bit longer than 30 seconds. It might feel like it's not happening, but then at some point you might start to really feel like you're able to sink down into it more, or it's just less painful. And that's the release that you're looking for. And if this is your first time in a while or at all doing this kind of foam rolling, you might not feel much release at all, but you got to just keep back at it. Try again. Get back at it and try it again. Good. So from here, now I'm going to move on. I'm going to roll over back to my quad. So now I'm kind of back where I started here. I'm back on my left quad. I've even got my right quad, sort of getting that right adductor, the right inner thigh in there a little bit. But I'm just back to this point where on my quads I can kind of roll around and get different angles. You can even roll yourself out of frame, roll yourself back into frame, out of frame, back into frame. There we go. And just take your time. This is your time for release. And there's one more spot here on our legs that we need to hit that we haven't really hit, and that's the inner thigh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scoot. So I'm going to actually Since we're doing the left leg, let's do that left leg still. So I'm flipping around just so you can see me. You can stay where you are. What we're going to do is we're going to scoot the roller out to the side to where I've just got the edge of the roller here. And I'm going to put my inner thigh of my left leg on there while my right leg is just out behind off the foam roller. And then again, I'm going to use my arms and my right leg to scoot me along as my left leg relaxed rolls along that inner thigh. You can, from here, you can go all the way from way up in that hip all the way down to just above the knee. Get that whole range in there. And you can see this area, as we were rolling our quads and shifting and changing angles on the quad, you were kind of getting this area a little bit. And then this way, when I scoot the roller over, and it's just on the one leg, now I can really focus and dig in further into this. That's it, back and forth. You can also, so you could try using all three of your, like, both arms and the right leg to, pull you up and back. Or you can even try just keeping your right side planted, like my right leg's planted on the ground, arms are kind of planted, and you just sort of extend and flex that left knee. So there's a little bit of muscle activation there, but ideally your adductors aren't doing much work. And you're sort of rolling the roller back and forth like that. Again, you find a knot, you find a spot, you sit on it, and you wait. For me, I think I got something right here. I'm going to sit on this. I'm going to just wait. We're going to give it a good 30 seconds. Hang it out. You can use your breath to encourage the release. Good. Rolling back through. Excellent. I'm going to get the other side here, so I'm going to flip around. You can stay the way you want to be. And we're now going to get the right leg. So actually, you know what? I'm going to flip back the other way so you can see what I was doing on the other side. So getting the right side. So now I've got my right inner thigh on the edge of the foam roller there. But this way you can see I've got my left side completely on the ground here. So with my left side flat on the ground, I'm going to roll the right inner thigh out, back and forth. That's it. And I'm just kind of doing a little, so here I'm sort of extending the leg and then flexing it back and forth to roll the roller back and forth. And then you can also try actually keeping the leg a little more straight. You might have to adjust the angle of the foam roller. You might have to turn it a little bit. And this way, from here, I'm actually going to use my arms and my left leg to move my body while the right leg is relaxed and just drags along with the leg straight. Rolling that roller back and forth here. Good. Again, if you find a spot, for me on this side, it's a little bit closer to my knee, just above the knee down there. Whew. It's tender, so I'm just going to sit. I'm going to relax on here and let this set here for a good 30 seconds. Just breathing, letting the tension release, letting that roller dig in and do its good work there. Good. It's not often, or I mean, it's quite often that I actually even go longer than 30 seconds on those. That's okay. Just let that stuff, give yourself that extra time. Rolling through. Ooh, there we go. Excellent. So that is the whole foam rolling series. But now we're going to add the stretch series on top of that. So now we've gotten the knots broken up and the muscles kind of warmed up. And we've warmed this stuff up without having to have done a full aggressive workout or even a bunch of cardio movements or anything. So Now we're going to go into the stretch series. I'm going to start off with the hamstring stretch. If you have a strap, or if you have a long belt or a long towel, you can use that. Or if you have those resistance bands that you can do strength work with, if you put a bunch of those bands together, that can sometimes give you enough tension to go ahead and put around the bottom of your foot like that. I like these straps with these loops, and then I can just lay back, pull that leg up in the air. And again, now as we go into these static stretches, it's even more important. Whatever you're stretching should be relaxed. With these static stretches, we're going to hold them for 30 seconds at a time. And you just find that end range, and then you just relax. So my arms are going to be doing the work here. My left leg is relaxed in the strap. Now, if you're so tight, if this is working for you, go ahead and keep this going. Just keep that stretch. Make sure you got the left knee straight. You don't want to aggressively have to lock the knee straight. What I want you to do is just bring it up. And if you reach a point where your knee starts to bend, that's too far. Bring it back down and let it be at a point where the knee can be straight. Okay. Now, if this is working for you, hold this. If you're having trouble, if you're so tight that you're kind of way down here and you've only got the strap like this much off the floor, or even wherever it is, just your arms are having a hard time holding your leg up in the air, then instead of using a strap or those bands, you can rest your leg on something. So I'll bring this chair. I've got this little rolly chair. If you're so tight, you might even be good enough just putting your leg up on a chair like this. Or if you got a little more range, you can either go up to the back of a couch, a table, or some other rolly chair like this, and you can just prop your leg up on that. What's an even better spot that you can do this on is a door frame. So my right leg would actually go through the door, and my left leg would just be right laying up on the door frame. I put the heel up there, and then you can just scoot yourself closer to take the stretch deeper, as opposed to this chair rolling away on me. So if this would be better for you, if you're more comfortable and you're going to be able to relax more, propping your leg up, this is a great way. You can also just watch TV and just let the time pass. You can do minutes in these stretches. I know I said 30 seconds, but when doing this long stretch series, we would come in and out of the 30 seconds. Sometimes you can just sit there 2-3 minutes at a time on one stretch and just breathing and letting that tension release in there. And you can just keep scooting a little bit closer and a little bit closer as the muscles loosen up. Okay. But so from here, I'm now going to go ahead and switch to the other leg. So you could scoot to the other side of the door frame and do that. Or if you're working with the strap on me here, go ahead and switch to the other side. Let's bring this leg up. We're going to hold this up here. And you can do 30 seconds, counting down. And you can do that with me right now. I'm already watching my time here. And just focus on your breath. Releasing the tension. And just being patient. Letting the time pass. Letting the muscles release on their own time. And you're not going to rip these muscles into length by yanking harder. You're only going to lengthen them by being patient and holding them at their end range. So that's about 30 seconds there. If you want, you can bring the leg down to take a break and then come on back up again. And we'll do it again. Maybe this time, I'm just going to do like a good full minute here. Just going to breathe and relax. If you're doing that door frame stretch, again, if you got to take breaks off of it. But if you can tolerate it, after 30 seconds to a minute, whenever you feel like it doesn't hurt as much, you can try scooting a little bit closer, pulling that stretch a little bit more. Feeling the stretch again. And then you know you're getting somewhere. You're gaining length. You're releasing that tension. But I will reiterate again, you will not stretch by ripping your muscles. It's not how stretching works. Okay, we're just holding them at their end range, and then we're waiting for it to release on its own. We're kind of trying to talk to them. And you're just hanging out here. I like to use the sort of the metaphor of, if you were hanging out at a bar with your friend, and all of a sudden you're friend who got really angry and he was starting to fight. And what's one of the ways you can get him to just stop that anger or stop that fight is you can just grab him and hold him tight and keep him from, fighting anybody, and just hold them until they calm down. And that's kind of what we're doing here. We're holding our muscles at length here, and we're just breathing and relaxing, and we're just waiting for the muscle to release itself. Like I just got another release here. I was able to extend my knee a little bit more, being up high there. And then I can pull it in a little bit closer. Good, we'll bring that down. And then we'll throw that strap aside. We don't need it. All right, we're going to now we're going to turn that into a figure 4 stretch. Let's do the figure 4 stretch by taking your ankle and crossing it on top of your knee, making a figure 4 with your legs there. If you're super tight, you might just enjoy the stretch even more, you can instead of putting it on top of your knee, it would be just above your knee. Instead of doing that, you could put your foot on the ground with the bottom of your foot touching the inside of your leg. Okay, so I've got my right knee bent, and the bottom of my right foot is touching the inside of my left leg there, and just letting the hip fall open. You can use your hand to just add a little bit of weight, pressing here. If you're really tight, you don't want to press so much that you end up rolling over and kind of pulling on your back there. At that point, you're not adding much as you are just kind of pulling your back. So just try to relax here, hold the pose, and again, just breathe and relax. We'll count down 30 seconds more here as well. Good. Now this is a deep stretch for you. If you feel like you got really far with it or it's really tender, you can use your right hand to pull that knee up and help bring you out of that stretch, and switch sides. Sometimes when we hold a stretch for a long time, the muscle can feel really tender pulling up and out of that stretch. So you can use another limb to assist it, so it's not having to strain that muscle so much at that extreme range. Again, you can have your knee on top, your foot on top of your knee like I do, or you can have it on the floor on the inside of your knee, sinking out there as well. Wherever you feel like you're getting a little bit better of a stretch here. Just encourages some good hip opening. Good. And now from here, I'm just gonna keep this figure 4 position. What I'm gonna do, so I've got if your foot is on the floor, bring it back on top of your knee. Okay. So with my left foot on my right knee, I'm now gonna bring my left knee up and I'm gonna grab it with my right hand. And ideally, I've still got my foot sort of locked on the outside of my leg there. I'm going to pull my left knee toward my right shoulder here. So now we're going to get a bit more of a glute stretch. Now you can if you're unable to keep your foot locked on the outside of your leg, just let it go. That's okay. Just have your foot hang free and just pull that knee towards that right shoulder there. And you can use both hands if you want to, as long as the direction of pull is going towards that opposite shoulder. If you do this a lot, you might not feel much of a stretch there, so therefore, you can take that foot and lock it on the outside of your opposite leg and then pull the knee towards the shoulder there. You can kind of feel it kind of digs into that glute a little bit more. And use your breath to just relax. Now in this series, I won't always do 30 seconds on each side, back and forth. I'll do several minute-long holds, as we're kind of doing here. Just holding the position, and just using your exhale to just release the tension for minutes straight. Good. Now I'm going to let that go. We're going to switch to the other side. So now bring my right knee up towards my left shoulder. Okay, you can start just having the foot free there. Just bring the knee towards that shoulder. And if you're not feeling much of a stretch, if it's not doing too much for you, then you can try putting that right foot on the outside of your left leg and then pull your knee towards that left shoulder in that position. Letting it dig in a little bit more. Good. Let that go. Let's now turn that into a piriformis stretch. So a couple different ways we can approach this piriformis stretch. I'm going to start from the easiest and then progress further from there. I want you to bend your right knee so your right foot is flat on the ground. Then you're going to take your left foot and you're going to put it on top of that right knee. Okay, so I've sort of crossed over here. I'll show you at an angle. I've got my left knee bent up in the air at an angle, but with the left foot on top of the right knee. Right knee is bent, so the right foot is flat on the ground. Okay, it's almost like you're making a little pretzel in your legs. You might feel a stretch already in this position, or if you're close to a stretch, you can just take your left hand and press on your left knee. All right, and if you're feeling a pretty good stretch in this position already, hang out here. This is your spot. If not so much, you can take it further by keeping the same position, but reaching through and grabbing the back of your right thigh. Okay, so now I've kind of picked my foot up off the ground and I'm pulling it all toward me. And you can interlace your fingers to lock that in. You should be able to still keep your head and back on the ground. Okay, it shouldn't be so tight that you're kind of up here hanging on. That's too tight there. I would go back to the previous modification. But if you can, keep your head, shoulders, and back flat on the ground and hug it in from there. And then if you're still not quite getting as much of a stretch as you want, you can reach through even further to grab your right shin and bring that leg even closer. Now, if you're still not feeling that stretch much, then you're either super flexible here and you're already very familiar with the stretch, and you can try to explore a pigeon pose if you know what that is. Hopefully you do if you already are that flexible. But if not, you could also try to back out of the stretch and figure out adjusting where your ankle is on the leg. You can kind of just sort of adjust that positioning. Try to get a little bit more, maybe get your foot more on your knee there, or maybe go the other way. Bring your leg across so that your right shin. I'm sorry, your left shin is more on the right knee, but you're probably going to have it be most effective if you move it out so that your left foot or left ankle is on that right knee. And that's what really helps get that ankle to stretch the piriformis. And just breathe and relaxing here. Same thing as everywhere else. You might feel this on the outside of the left hip. You might feel this on the inside of the left hip. Wherever you're feeling that is okay. But now here's an example. I'm holding my shin. This is actually a bit too far for me because you can see I've got my neck is kind of pulled up in the air. It's a bit too far. My arms are pulling my chest and neck up in the air. I'm not laying flat on my back. So I'm going to go back to holding the back of my thigh so that my head and back can lay a little more flat on the ground. Obviously now my neck is not on the ground because, the back of your head sticks out a little bit. But previously it was like arching up, and you don't want your spine to be arching up in this position. Let's go ahead and release that. And now I'm going to switch to the other side. So now I'm going to put my right ankle, even closer to my right foot, on my left knee. And then from here, you can just hold this position or press out on the knee, or pressing out on the right knee like that. If that's not enough, then you can thread the needle, reach through, grab the back of your left thigh, or reach through and grab your left shin. Now I'm in the same position here. That's too far for me. My neck is arched up, so I'm going to grab the back of my left thigh and hug it in this way. And we're going to focus back on our breath here. And using those exhales to release tension. And we're going to let that go. Good, and release. Let's now turn this into a quad stretch. So I'm going to roll over to my right side. Lying on my right side, I'm going to put my head on my hand with my elbow out like this, so my head's supported. I'm going to grab my left ankle. I'm going to bring my knees together if I can. So from here, just by grabbing your left ankle and then bringing the knee down. You don't want the leg out wide like this. You just want it more parallel with the other. You might feel a good stretch already. If not, then you can try to pull the knee further back behind you. Can you get it to meet the other knee? You might feel a good stretch there. If not, then you could try to pull the knee even further back behind you, getting a little bit more like a hip flexor stretch. But if you're already feeling a good stretch earlier than that, it's okay. We're going to do a dedicated hip flexor stretch after this. Now I'm just going to give this a good 30 seconds here for me. I can already get this knee to meet up with the other one pretty easily. I can feel it's a little, I can feel tension. I can feel a stretch. It's not extreme for me though, so I'm just checking in with it, just encouraging the length that it has. I can feel holding this position is getting a little bit easier, which means it's good. I am releasing some tension in there. But for sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and move on. But you can stay here longer if you want. I'm going to flip sides. You can roll over, whatever you want to do. Now I'm on my left side, left elbow out, resting my head on my left hand, grabbing my right ankle with my right hand. And again, not letting the knee flare out, but keeping the knees more together. And just pulling back as far as until I get a good stretch here. Same thing, I'm just going to give a good 30 seconds on this side. Good. Let that go. Excellent. I'm going to take this into a hip flexor stretch now. So from here, I'm going to make my way up to my knees. You might get a little lightheaded. Take a moment, let that settle, let your blood flow settle here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to my knees, step forward with one foot. Ideally, you want to have a mat or a pillow underneath that bottom knee so it's not so abrasive sitting on there. From here, before we do anything, okay, don't go forward into this hip flexor stretch yet. I want you to come back here, be more up tall, and then I want you to draw on your abdominal muscles and do this posterior pelvic tilt. Okay, so that is already, you can do a whole separate video on that posterior pelvic tilt. I go over that in some of my form videos, but from here, you just want to hold that tilt. You might already be feeling a good stretch on the front of your thigh, closer up to the hip here. All right, so we're already getting a little bit of a good hip flexor stretch here. But from there, if you feel like you can go further, while holding that posterior pelvic tilt, okay, you can bend this front knee, sinking your torso forward, and take the stretch even further. But I'm not letting go of that posterior pelvic tilt. The main reason I'm holding that is because if I didn't engage that first, and I just went into this hip flexor stretch, I can go way out here, but I'm also letting my hips tilt forward in a way that I'm actually arching my back, which if your spine is healthy, that can be good for it, opening up that range there, but I'm also not getting as effective as a hip flexor stretch as if I tilted this posterior tilt, tilted my hips back, locked that, and that's just to keep my spine neutral as I then bend forward, and I'm getting the same stretch in the hip flexor here without sacrificing my spine, okay? So I'm keeping my spine neutral while I hold this stretch. And if you want to take it even further from here, you can then take your right arm and raise it up in the air. That will lift your rib cage a little bit. So with that right elbow up in the air, you kind of might feel that stretch go up into your right side, or right up, into the right side of your abdomen. And then if you have a healthy spine, you can even then try to even tilt toward your left. Take it even further. I'm really opening this side up from the thigh all the way up through my right torso there. And that right abdomen. So you just take it to whatever point is good for you and you hold it there. Wherever you're already feeling a strong stretch, without sacrificing your spine or causing any kind of pain in there. And then ease back out of it. And then we're going to switch sides. So now my right leg is forward, left knee is down. And you're going to first do this posterior pelvic tilt. While holding that, bend the right knee forward, sink your whole torso forward to wherever you feel the stretch, if you can, if you're not feeling it yet. And then if you want to take it further, you can then take the left arm up in the air. And if you want to take it even further, you can then tilt toward your right. You just go to the point that's going to be good for you, promoting this length. Now this can be tricky because remember we said before, whatever muscle we're stretching, we want that to be relaxed. But we're kind of doing a little bit of a balance pose here. Try to kind of, it might not feel like you're balancing, but the fact that you're not falling over means some muscles are working, something's stabilizing to keep you up. And so you want to try to do your best that the particular muscles that you're stretching, kind of mentally see those lengthening, those relaxing, while I'm using my right leg and other parts to other parts, the specific parts of my left side, like my left glute, the back of my leg, things back here. This stuff is helping me sort of stabilize. But you can just breathe into these stretches, imagining those muscles just lengthening with each breath. Good. We'll come out of that. Excellent. And that already might be a good full series for you. But if you want to top it off, we can do a little bit of a calf stretch here. So we can take the strap, put it back on the bottom of the foot here. And if you want to lay on your back, I'm going to take this strap and I'm going to pull my toes up. And you might feel a stretch go down along the back of that calf there. With the knee straight, that's going to be a gastrocnemius stretch. Okay, so that's sort of the ball of the calf. And you'll hold that for 30 seconds. We'll kind of just give the 30 seconds here. I've got my left knee bent here just to hang out. Doesn't really matter. It could be straight. It's not going to affect the stretch. And then you've got your soleus muscle in there as well. So there's two muscles in your calf. To do that, you want your right knee bent a little bit, and then you pull the foot up. Now, it's hard to get that with a strap, so you can do that stuff standing up. And you can find that one of my other separate calf stretch videos where we actually have the frame set so that you can be standing up for that. But that's I'll focus on that stuff. You can do that easily at the park or at the gym. Tapping in that calf. Don't neglect that. But a lot of that tension that you might feel can typically just come from the need to roll out and do a stretch series for the muscles that surround and connect directly to the hips itself. So hopefully that's feeling a little bit better there. Hopefully you feel like you learned something. You found some spots that maybe needed some attention. And if you need to revisit those, revisit them. If you need to revisit the whole series, revisit the whole series. This is your body, and it's your time to take care of yourself. Thank you for joining me in this lower body foam rolling and stretch series. I'll see you next time.